Welcome, everybody, to the Opening Day Sportsman's podcast. I'm here with Randy Santucci. I'm Dan Davila. This is 12/6/2024, and we will be having one, possibly two other podcasts to close out the year. Well, we've not been on for a while. Obviously, there's been a lot happening in Pennsylvania with hunting, as well as national uh, landscape with reelecting President Trump. So, with that, we're going to get you caught up with what has happened in the last 3 months, who the players have been, and what we have to look forward to in the next 60 days. So, with that in mind, here's Randy.
Hello, everyone. It's been a while. Dan and I had been in our group, have been doing a lot of work in the past 3 or 4 months, and there's been a lull. And just to let everybody know what's been going on, we had a situation where there was a hearing promised to me personally from Anita Kulik. It was promised to Representative Brian Smith when he elected to pull his amendment off of the Sunday hunting bill back, so a couple of months back, and everything was a go. I've had conversations, with Anita Kulik, and September came along. We were contacted by her office, kind of given the ground rules of what the hearing was going to be, who was going to participate, and so forth. And September, that conversation led into, well, maybe best served waiting till October so that the House was in session, so more legislators would actually be in Harrisburg, so they would get a better attendance at the hearing in Harrisburg. October came and went, session days, never found time to get it in. November came, and they're done. And subsequently now, this thing will be regrouping and starting up again here in January. The hearing is not a dead issue. It looks to be postponed. And I was contacted by Representative Smith for his bill, which last year was House Bill 495. And he had issued the memo to reissue it. And the day the memo was issued, which was, I think, a day or two ago, he already had 6 co-sponsors, 3 Democratic and 3 Republican right out of the gate. So the legislation on the House side is being reintroduced. And from what I understand, I saw a document from FOAC that shows that the Senate side, Lisa Boscola, is going to reintroduce again. I haven't confirmed that yet, but that was on a document that came from FOAC. So this thing on the political side, that's part of what's been going on. And we've strived in our Facebook group to not have political bashing. I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. I don't want to hear that. We're all hunters. We all are in this for the sport. But there are some things that have to be identified along the political lines so everybody knows what has transpired. It wasn't a few weeks, 3 or 4, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks back, 5 weeks back, when they had the voting meeting on Senate Bill 67, which is the Sunday hunting bill, and a House vote on it on the House committee. And that particular vote, Representative Dave Maloney had attached a couple of amendments to that legislation. One of them was the Monday opener bill, Representative Brian Smith's bill, which was, like I said, it wasn't even Representative Maloney's bill, but he saw and recognized the importance of that, and he had attached it to that. How did that turn out, you might wonder? Well, when it came to vote, the entire Republican side of the committee voted to support passage of that amendment, and the entire Democratic side voted against it and killed it. And of course, they have the 1-seat majority. So that's what happened at the voting hearing for the Sunday hunting, Senate Bill 67, which is now dead, by the way, until next year. It has to be reintroduced and never made it back through the Senate and so forth. But again, letting everybody know what's been going on the last 3 months. And some of the stuff that really upsets some of us is, for instance, in that voting meeting, that hearing that I just mentioned, some of the legislators spoke up. One of them was Mandy Steele, who had reached out to me almost 2 years ago. 100% supported the Monday opener. She actually was one of the first ones. There was one of two Democratic representatives that signed on to Representative Smith's bill. After that, for some reason, she pulled off, reversed her position, and now is trying to make a point about how good it is. And I don't really even know how much Representative Steele knows about the aspects surrounding the Monday opener, all the dynamics. That's what's concerning. The mic was passed to Representative Jim Haddock. Jim starts off with a comment to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, well, this has been a tradition now for 7 years. Well, no, Representative Haddock, it had only been 5 years at that point, which already told me he didn't really understand or was not up to speed on the issue. And then he proceeds to make some comments about the ag community's involvement in this and had to do with the switch, crop damage. And I was taken aback, never heard anything about that. I even put that to Representative Smith at one point here in a conversation a week or so ago, and he made the comment, I've never heard anything about that. So you have people that are basically putting things out there that aren't even accurate. And subsequently, that comment there, which I thought it was comical. So from a standpoint of, well, he makes a comment that somehow the ag community was involved. Well, and this had something to do with benefiting farming and crop damage. Well, that couldn't have been the farthest thing from the truth, because the Game Commission themselves had identified this change had nothing to do with biology or deer management. So when it has nothing to do with biology or deer management, it certainly couldn't have anything to do with impacts on crop damage. So, this is what we're up against. We're bringing truthful data forward, and you've got some of these people that don't know the issue well enough to really have input that is, for lack of a better word, credible. Dan, you've seen that happening all along here with us, with different comments from people that you're getting half truths, and that's where we want the hearing.
Well, I want everybody to know we're not making up the numbers. The numbers that we use are the numbers that we're getting from the Pennsylvania Game Commission. The only thing that I would caution everybody to remember is they picked and chose the numbers that they wanted to report on. Those weren't the same numbers that we looked at. We looked at it, the numbers in its entirety. But when they went out with press releases a couple of years back, Travis Lau, under the leadership of Brian Burhans, license sales up after Saturday opener. License sales were up after the Saturday opener, but it wasn't because the opener was on Saturday.
It wasn't worded properly. Right.
It had everything to do with the concurrent bear season, and that is where we are today. That is the whole focus of our group, and that is to make sure that the stuff is being reported from Alberton Street correctly. Let's face it, folks, this agency has more money than any agency in the country, maybe in the world, in terms of the money that they're sitting on, and to be a game agency sitting on the funds that there's. Randy, what are they on? 1.6.
Well, last year was 600 and some million in the projections from people, where it was going to be over $1 billion here very shortly in the next year or two or whatever. Right. So, that aspect, certainly could work to the benefit of sportsmen, but it also could work detrimentally because, our dollars from the hunting license and sales don't mean anything anymore in the big picture. They have more money than they know what to do with at the moment. And that's not an incorrect statement, because we've seen that money being, some people trying to get their fingers into some of that. But it's unfortunate that, like Dan mentioned, things the very first year, the representation from the agency on, everything has a beginning. And that first year was the beginning, and it was misrepresented. And like Dan said, license sales up after Saturday opener. No. It didn't say license sales up because of the Saturday opener. And so there's a big difference there. And when you sold 27,000 more bear permits that year than the year before, that shows you that early muzzleloader, that early archery, and that concurrency, like Dan mentioned, on bringing bear into the rifle deer season, I think in 19 management units, drove a lot of interest to buy licenses that year. And there are several other aspects that we've mentioned several times, which a lot of hunters don't understand from the standpoint of license sales, general sales. There's a category, we mentioned this previously, but I'll just mention it briefly. We have the senior combo renewal category, which is our senior license holders, lifetime license holders, already on the books, get a free, not purchase, they get a free upgrade called the combo renewal, which gets them a few different tags, but those tags are unrelated to any deer season opening day. They're fur taker, there's a couple different things. So, the aspect of that category of combo renewals, which pads license sales every year by the thousands, showing, and what I'm getting at, for instance, last year, at the end of December, it was around 6,000 and some general sales increase. 5,055 of that general sales increase were the combo renewals, the free upgrade. So it shows a false portrayal of increased participation in general sales. Those aren't increased participation. Those are guys that already have their senior licenses, lifetime licenses. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors here that regarding license sales. We've been very clear to analyze the Game Commission data at the end of calendar year, December 31st of each year. Since 2018, general sales have declined since then. 1 year went up, which was COVID, and it went right back the next year, even more so than the year before. Resident junior license sales in the state have stayed in decline. Their answer to that is, well, they haven't declined as much. You can take these numbers and compare them against the graph that started in 1982, the cyclic aspect of license sales. You can make that claim on 4 different occasions where license sales dropped, flattened out, dropped, flattened out, dropped, flattened out, had nothing to do with the deer opener or any opener. So the legislative side of this thing, there's so much to tell hunters that this being a social decision has no biological. Dan, you remember the recent release from the Pennsylvania Federation of Sportsmen,
Right.
and they commented that this should be left alone because this is a biological change that the Game Commission is responsible for. Blah blah blah. Well, no, it was not a biological change. That was admitted by the agency when this first happened. This was a social change. And subsequently, you have legislators that aren't hunting savvy. They see an organization like the Federation make a claim that this is a biological thing, which should be hands off to the legislative side. Not an accurate statement. In fact, I can even mention a fellow that we've mentioned before on this podcast who's been on our podcast, Dan, Jim Daly. And Jim, actually, when the Federation did that latest release, I think of Mr. Kreiner from the Federation, their lobbyist, made that press release. Jim was so upset about it, he was still a Federation delegate and treasurer in a county here in northwestern PA. He resigned again because he said, this is complete falsehood. And so he stepped away. So, what hunters are being told about the opener, the accuracy is not there. And this is why we want that hearing to be able to banter and discuss this openly.
To go along with what you're talking about, Randy, to let everybody know, we want a fair shake. That if they're going to make decisions that are going to affect millions and millions of dollars and thousands and hundreds of thousands of hunters, that they do their due diligence correctly. And now what has happened is we notice them kind of moving over to but this creates more opportunity. Well, our group, and we have, these are not a bunch of just hunters and FUDs and everything else that we've been called under the sun. If you look at the group of people that we've assembled in our our pages of Facebook books and everything that we're involved in with constant contact with the people that are following it. We have doctors, lawyers, we have PhDs. Very many of our people have college degrees. We have some people. We bring a formidable group to the table. Steve, Executive Director Stephen Smith, I think, recognizes that. We're not looking to get it in the mud. We're not looking to uh, do away with the Pennsylvania Game Commission. We want this decision on the opener, which was the coup de grace, the Super Bowl of the entire year, to be looked at fairly and correctly. On a recent podcast of one of our competitors made this statement that I like the extra days to hunt. Well, we weren't advocating less days to hunt either. All we simply wanted was the proper amount of time to prepare after Thanksgiving to go to the woods, to travel, which I guarantee you, out of staters certainly would more than be happy to move it back to Monday. Saturday just isn't enough time. It's too rushed. Randy has made this statement numerous times. You have about 9 hours from the time you put your fork down on Thanksgiving to you're in the woods.
Yeah,
Hunting.
you have Black Friday involved there too, and Small Business Saturday and things like that. That we've brought all this up before, and it's unfortunate that we don't get any accurate recognition of the fact of how this came. Like, this tree was planted in a pile of shit is kind of a way I'd like to say it, because the very first year that the commissioners were to assess the data, they have responsibilities, and their responsibilities are outlined in their policy manual guidelines of their responsibilities for being a commissioner. They're supposed to have a public comment period on a change like this. I mentioned before, it was 82% opposed. They're supposed to assess their staff positions. The staff did not present data supporting this. In fact, one of their staff members, who was the hunter outreach coordinator, said this wasn't going to work. Your perception of this is going to be offset. Said that there's supposed to be legislative respect for legislative input. At that time, the committee's members, Courts and Gillespie, called the commissioners back to Harrisburg to reconsider their vote. It was so egregious that everybody was going through the roof. So all of the required parameters of a decision-making process by that original board in 2019 were ignored. So subsequently, we're here today. And if we just take a step back to last April, President Foradora, who was, in my opinion, guilty of the original working group meeting comments that were out of bounds, with "this will be a good segue to Sunday hunting. I'm not going to have my son missing a day of school to go hunting." What kind of my opinion? I mean, I'm a hunter. You're a hunter, Dan. I'm proud to have my son go hunting with me for a day. Happy, in fact, that he's willing and we're able to spend that quality time. But we have a commissioner that somehow thinks that's a wrong thing. Yet the entire state had the initiative decades ago to not allow, to close the schools. And 80% of the schools today are still closed on Monday. So, this entire decision from day one to now, and when I say go back to the last April meeting, Commissioner Foradora, who is now last year was the president of the board, issued a pre-prepared statement. And one of the lines in the statement is this has damaged and fractured the hunters of Pennsylvania. And they reached out to the legislature, particularly the House leadership, to work with them on this. Now, if that doesn't scream we made a mistake, when your board, after 5 years, has a pre-prepared statement that says this has damaged and fractured the hunters of Pennsylvania. They damaged and fractured the hunters of Pennsylvania, nobody else. And that statement that was pre-prepared and read at the commissioners' meeting in April last year, I thought was just a profound admission of guilt. But yet, we're still involved in deception, in not wanting to accept what has happened here.
Right.
Do some people like the Saturday? I get it.
So do I.
Dan,
Yeah.
yeah, we all get it. But the big picture, the economic, the social, Thanksgiving problem they're up against, Small Business Saturday conflict, that's Black Friday, that's, I mean, on and on. Just cut to the chase, putting the deer opener on the Saturday in the most traveled family holiday weekend of the year. You put the deer opener on that Saturday in that weekend. Now, that's not hyperbole. Go research with TSA and AAA and ask them what's the most traveled weekend of the year. That's the weekend. So putting that in there is just ridiculous. And that just cuts to the chase as far as just from that perspective. But
Randy, and I'll add to what you just said there. And it was common practice that when there was correspondence going out there, that most likely, and I can't say that for sure, that probably Stephen Smith probably wrote Forador's response. I know that he had written other responses for some of the commissioners. So
yeah,
the point that I want to make here is how many of us really ever get a chance to talk to the commissioners? We certainly can't talk to them at the meetings in January and February. So I, me personally, I feel that uh, the whole landscape of how they conduct themselves after the season needs to be changed. Uh, there's a line of been drawn in the sand. I think that line needs to be washed. I think there should be a coming together, so to speak, of the hunters and the game commission, that they represent. And I don't think it's fair to the commissioners that they would be responsible for shoving something down our throat that we really don't want in terms of a majority.
you
But
know, Dan, like you said, we've requested that what a couple weeks ago again from Steve Smith and the commissioners about meeting with them, meeting with the board. The dynamics of this thing have just been so. I mean, it's like a kangaroo court back in 2019, but yet since then, the comments that have come from different commissioners and things that have happened. Um, why aren't we sitting down like adults? Why is this board not willing to meet with us and our representatives to have open discussion on this, the data particularly? They're leaning on this. They think this is the best decision for the future of the sport. Um, I don't get it. I mean, it's when you look at the damage this has done at their own admission, fractured and divided us. Um, and if it's there's a camp side of this thing that certainly is a stronger aspect. You could be looking at 150 to 200,000 people that hunt all from camps in that somewhere in that range. Let's be conservative. Let's say 100,000 hunters still hunt from camps. Most of the hunters that don't like this, there could be 100,000 of them. Where do you make that up when you put a stick in the eye of a base of your constituents that big for something, whether it be their traditions, their family, their travel time, their, this is
100% right. 100% right. And the amount of money that they are sitting on is like there's so many, and we've offered ideas for them to, if we want to go after increase sales with the youth category, let's come up with some programs that are more uh, in tune with like working with Board of Education, which I've said, honoring some of the schools and teachers that have tirelessly run the programs for junior licenses for people to get qualified to be able to hunt. That we talked about a wonderful school, Trinity, down below Pittsburgh last year. That's going to happen. They are going to get honored. Whether the Pennsylvania Game Commission, who did, Steve said that he would be interested in being involved in that. In addition to that, there were some promises made about some club enhancements, funding for certain sportsmen's clubs across the state. Those are all good. But point is to just arbitrarily change opening days and think that that's going to have a profound effect on used sales is crazy when they didn't do their homework to see, well, there's always a cause and effect. And the effect now is and we hear it in our group. Many people are saying, "I'm disenfranchised. Hell with it. I don't have the time," or and have decided not to hunt. In addition to that, they didn't look into how many people, well, the other people work on Monday. What about the people that work on Saturday? What about, this is Pennsylvania. What's going on in Pennsylvania? Well, you've got Penn State football. You've got high school football. NCAA has, PAAA officials have reached out to us, which we have a letter from one of them.
And let's explain that a little bit. Talk about a Saturday, and you talk about, let's just say, just the college football aspect is this official that reached out to us. You've got all these people now, fans, players, cheerleaders, coaches, officials. All of these people now have a Saturday conflict versus if they wanted to go hunting. That's what the Saturday problem is. That didn't happen. That didn't exist on Monday. Of course, you have the Sunday hunt conflict now with anybody that's into watching sports and football and so forth on Sunday. But that aside, the Saturday, somehow that this was a miraculous day that was so much better, but yet, like I've said to people before, well, we got an extra day to hunt. No, you took away one of the most popular small game and turkey hunting days. So you didn't get really much benefit out of this. But I think, Dan, one thing we should probably mention now, in the last 2 weeks, there were two big articles that have come out. There was a documentary done from the eastern side of the state, Lancaster, and there was another article that was just released a week ago, and it's from this organization. It's a State College Regional Bureau of Spotlight, PA, an independent, nonpartisan newsroom dedicated to investigative and public service journalism in Pennsylvania. And this article was all about and the title of it was that they want, businesses want to see this return because of the economic impact. We had nothing to do with that article. We didn't initiate it. We didn't initiate the documentary that just came out. This shows how broad scale this is across the state, that it's that big of a deal 6 years in that people are still writing about it. We had 300 people join our group in the last 2 weeks. I mean, it just keeps growing and going. And it's unfortunate that we can't have good dialogue with the agency to discuss. Sure, they hold the cards. They make the decisions. Well, we're questioning the fact that we don't think the right decision was made. And right. I think we can prove it.
Yeah, and anybody that wants to get more information about what we're talking about today, they can go to our Facebook group. And if you don't do Facebook group, you can, we'll provide our email addresses that you can email Randy or myself to get involved. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars. We're talking about traditions. There's a lot at stake here. And I think Stephen Smith recognizes that as well. And I think this will get changed at some point. We just don't know when. But I will tell you this. Our group is very passionate. We are not going away. There's still more cards to play here. And we feel that if it gets down to it where we may end up in court with it, we feel comfortable that the data will support our decision, our position. And that said, go ahead, Randy.
Dan, we brought up Steve Smith's name a few times, and Steve has stayed in contact with us. Not the board, but, Executive Director Smith. But that said, we had a 2-hour lunch with him. We have had conversations with him recently on one article come out. He felt he was misquoted. He reached out and contacted Dan and I to say, hey, wait a minute, fellas, before you guys get through the roof, I got to tell you. So, yeah, the other day I reached out to Steve, and, at the risk of, jeopardizing a relationship here, I don't think really would. But, I asked him, I said, Steve, go on to our Facebook group. The activity has been unbelievable the past few weeks. Members flown in. I said, please spend some time reading these posts and comments from these hundreds and hundreds of sportsmen. And his answer to me was this yesterday. It says, I took an hour or two tonight and read through dozens of posts and hundreds of comments. I appreciate the passion they have for hunting in PA. Now, Steve, every comment and every post he read wasn't about passion to hunt for PA. It was about the disgust and the concern of they want the Monday opener back. That's what the gist was of every comment and every post. but he didn't mention anything about the fact that that passion that he read, those hundreds of comments and posts and so forth, they were something about the passion of hunting. No, that's not what they were about. The Monday opener. So again, you can't get a fair shake. I mean, Steve's been nice to us and so talks to us, but that's not the answer you come back with. I don't know if he's in between a rock and a hard place. He's in between this issue, us, and the board. And I get he really can't address things the way he possibly may want to or may not. But unfortunately, that's not a truthful response to what he just read. And we can show those sorts of things over and over and over and over, whether it be we've asked for all-encompassing surveys of every hunter in the state. Anita Kulik asked for that. She got stonewalled. I asked Commissioner Fredericks at that at the Pitt Cameron Rowville Sportsman's Club in June of last year. Nothing came up.
Every survey that has been run, with the exception of one that was done by, and I'll paraphrase what Brian Burhan's past executive director made the comment, a large scientific survey of 2,008 hunters. That's where this all started. And that was promised to the legislature, who brought them back because they felt they might have overstepped their bounds with changing the opener. And also Dan Laughlin had a lot to do with it, Senator Laughlin. Again, Randy and I and many of our group felt that was the segue to the Sunday hunting bill. I don't want to get into that. In our group, it's a personal preference. If you want to hunt Sunday, great. If you don't want to hunt Sunday, great again.
Right.
We're fine.
Right.
We're fine with it. But make no mistake about it. They felt they completely misread this group of people that are out there, which we call the silent majority. And if we were full of crap, we'd have went away years ago. But we're coming into our 6th year, and it's bigger than ever. And
Dan, what you were saying about the polls, and here's a recent validation of that. PJ Riley, a writer over in Lancaster, had come onto our Facebook group, and we had some discussion back, and some other people, comments. There was 30, 40, whatever it may have been, conversation. And here's one comment from PJ. It says, I've written about this topic for years now. I've run a couple polls in our newspaper, all of which have always come back in favor of the Monday opener. Okay? We don't make this up. Okay? This is what's happened ever since the beginning. It's been run in Lancaster. It's been run in polls on various newspapers, Exploring Clarion. There was several in Altoona. So every spot poll across the state has come back majority support for the Monday. So, just to reiterate the fact that this stuff doesn't get discussed in an open forum with the commissioners. We thought we had achieved the open forum with the legislators with the hearing, which is supposed to happen again here in the new session, which I think would have went a long way to shedding some light on this issue. But, for people out there that like the Saturday that don't understand this, I'm not demeaning you at all. I mean, I actually thought one day, I can kind of get it. If you hunt out of your house and you hunt local, you've never hunted maybe at a camp, or you've never hunted with a group, or you've never traveled, you might not get this whole thing.
Right. Yeah, Dan Sneath is one that he's friends with Randy and I. We understand that, and we both like Dan Sneath. But, there isn't any situation where this is going to be 100% popular for either side.
Yeah, but the big picture, I think, is what's been ignored here. And like I said, I think if we could get down to an honest discussion on this, and even to some degree in a debate with this open forum, I think a lot of people would start to recognize, why this is still a 6-year controversy, of which in the 5th year the Game Commission even admitted that it's still a fracture and divisive issue for our hunters. So
yeah,
but
and I'll tell you, this could end up being a segue for other things to take place that the Game Commission probably doesn't want to hear about, and that would be if our voices aren't being heard, and 3 years running we're 0-27, 27 times commissioners voted us down. So they're not hearing us. But
Yeah.
what do you do when they don't hear us? Maybe we need to rethink the position of how we are getting commissioners. How are they? Because they're being appointed by the governor. Is that fair? Is that
Yeah.
equitable?
Yeah. And I reached out to, to Derek Eberly and talked to Derek in the past about, look, we
Explain,
think
Randy, explain who Derek Eberly is.
Derek is the head of the Governor's Advisory Council for Hunting, Fishing, and Conservation. I served on that council under Tom Corbett back in the day. And, of course, it's a council to advise the governor on these issues, hunting, fishing, conservation, et cetera. And, I reached out to Derek here again, as I have in the past, and a couple of weeks ago, about having a conversation. I would like to potentially meet with him, the council, and or the governor on this to discuss how this decision was made from the commissioners who serve at his pleasure. I think he would probably need to hear this, especially the economic side of this thing, and bring in these people, the representatives of these chambers of commerce. Let them talk. We don't need to talk. And and he appreciates our concern. He sends me an email today, but you should place your concerns with the commission, which sets seasons and bag limits. So, it's going back to the fox to watch the hen house. That's, the unfortunate thing is, not being able to have an honest assessment here, an honest discussion, and looking at the big picture. Do we hold the line on this? Well, I think if people visit our group, it's not good. I just get a kick out. Like I said, there's so many posts that are hundreds and hundreds of likes. And, it's telling, and people are saying, look, I was in a group of 20 hunters the other day, and this came up, and not one of them liked the set. So, again, is that anecdotal right now? Yeah. But I think there's so much of that people need to sit and say, wait a minute, maybe this was a mistake, and we need to go revisit and discuss this openly. And now changing it to another Saturday, that was thrown at you one time, Dan, remember? And from Commissioner Fredericks.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't solve the problem. If you open on another Saturday, you still have the problem that the day before is a work day, Friday. And people would have to take off for that Thursday or Friday or whatever it be, just to prepare to be ready to hunt Saturday. So what you had with the Monday was that time, the Saturday and the Sunday, for preparations and so forth. So this isn't about moving it to another weekend. This is about something that wasn't broke, that they tried to fix.
Our forefathers absolutely nailed it when they picked the Monday after Thanksgiving. It provided all of us hunters almost like a mystical 5-day holiday that was surrounded by outdoor activity, small game hunting. And it used to be that was the number one small game hunting day of the season, was that Saturday after Thanksgiving. That is now gone. Before we go any further, I want to do a special shout out to Jennifer Guerrero and Rebecca Latini. Both had some very strong articles. Rebecca was interviewed by the fellow that did that documentary, and Jennifer's piece was, I think, ran in a couple newspapers and also Pennsylvania Outdoor News. So if you have a chance to get to read those articles, these are two of our team members that we're very proud of and have been side by side with us with this journey, so to speak. And I'm going to tell you, it's been an eye opener. There's a lot of opportunity for the Pennsylvania Game Commission to actually come out of this in a better light, but they know that this is going to have to be dealt with, and we're here and committed, both Randy and I, to see that it is, and anything else short of that, not acceptable.
Yeah, whether the Sunday hunting initiative that was potentially behind this, because you couldn't open on Saturday and be closed Sunday, which we felt strong-armed that Senate Bill 147 for passage. I firmly believe that when I saw the sponsor of that bill, Senator Laughlin, at the Game Commission that year in 2019. But all of that said, I've been in this game a long time, as has Dan, and being on the Governor's Council and president of large sportsmen's groups. Never in my life prior to 2018 did I hear anybody request to change the opener. We went on back and back for how many years with the Sunday situation? Decades. And subsequently, this gets changed on a whim. So there was something behind this, and we're exposing a lot of that now. But the decision was not vetted well enough. It was not researched. There was no economic impact studies done. And subsequently, here we are. So
we have to have a comfort level that we have the right people in there and they're doing the job the way we would expect the job to be done. The Pine Marten got more credibility than our hunters. So anyway.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue on with some other aspects of this in podcasts again. Here we've resurrected our.
We're gonna bring some guests on.
Yep. And we hope everybody out there, we're looking to, get more input, get more people, man. Again, the group Pennsylvania Hunters Against the Saturday Deer Opener, and jump on, share it. You can read the comments from thousands of people and hunters, and hopefully, makes puts you in a situation where you're in agreement with the where we're at. But I want to thank everyone, for listening today and watching today, and hopefully we can give you some more information in the near future. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we're going to do some more podcasts.
Adios, everybody.
Okay, take care, everybody.